Hey guys, tonight we drift together into the quiet sanctuary of your bedroom. That sacred space where the outside world melts away and only the gentle whispers of your own mind remain. You probably won't survive this night if you attempt to charge straight into sleep without proper preparation. But luckily, we're here to guide you step by sleepy step. You wander over to your bed, feeling the familiar texture of your sheets under your fingertips, the pillow inviting you like an old friend who knows all your secrets. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, while you're at it, comment down below with your current location and local time. I'm genuinely curious where each of you are easing into the night.
You begin by dimming the lights, letting that soft, amber glow replace the harsh glare that has plagued your senses all day. Maybe you turn on a fan for that soft background hum, the kind that lulls even the most stubborn thoughts into a gentle rhythm. Your body senses the cue: darkness, quiet, and a subtle vibration of air. This ritual is more than aesthetics. It signals to your brain that the day's responsibilities are now irrelevant, that tonight your only mission is restorative sleep. The hum of the fan, the soft sway of shadows against the wall, these are cues embedded deep in your neural pathways, encouraging the parasympathetic nervous system to kick in. Scholars still argue whether the subtle environmental tweaks like these can directly shorten sleep latency, but anecdotal evidence from sleep clinics suggests that pre-sleep rituals dramatically improve sleep onset. You reach for a small, familiar notebook on your nightstand, a companion for capturing lingering thoughts. Tonight, like many nights, you jot down anything that might keep you awake. Unfinished emails, tomorrow's errands, fleeting worries that tease the edges of your consciousness. Offloading these thoughts isn't just therapeutic. Studies hint at a measurable decrease in pre-sleep cognitive arousal when thoughts are externalized. Oddly, there's a historical note here. During the Edo period in Japan, samurai would practice yomikikase, writing down their lingering thoughts in small scrolls before bed to prevent mental unrest. You chuckle to yourself because, in essence, journaling as a bedtime ritual is centuries old. Next, you notice your bedding. The tactile feedback of your sheets is surprisingly influential on your comfort and sleep readiness. Cotton, linen, or bamboo all offer unique textures and temperatures. You adjust your pillow, fluffing it just so, creating the optimal cradle for your head. In fact, a 19th century physician once noted that the quality and feel of bedding were paramount for proper rest, long before mattress companies started marketing the science behind foam densities in pillow lofts. You marvel at how something so simple, like a sheet or pillow, can hold the key to a restful night. Ambient sound, subtle yet essential, makes its way into your awareness. Maybe the hum of your fan, perhaps a soft playlist of rain or ocean waves, sets a background that prevents abrupt silence from startling your mind. Oddly enough, in the 18th century, the French aristocracy employed white noise machines, early versions like trickling fountains or ticking clocks, to drown out the unpredictable creaks and groans of their drafty mansions at night. Scholars still argue whether constant background noise or complete silence yields the most restorative sleep. But you're in favor of gentle hums tonight, a cocoon of sound that blankets your awareness. You take a moment to stretch lightly on the mattress. Nothing intense, just a roll of shoulders, a bend at the waist, loosening muscles that may have stiffened under the strain of day-long activities. Tension, as you've probably noticed, has a way of solidifying in your body without warning, and left unchecked, it can keep you awake even when the room is perfect. You remember an odd historical anecdote. Ancient Egyptians placed wooden wedges under beds to subtly stretch the spine during sleep, claiming it enhanced dreams. Scholars still argue whether these practices had real physiological benefits, but there's no denying that you feel slightly taller, freer in your limbs. Now, your senses converge. Dim light, soft hum, a comfortable bed, your thoughts contained in your notebook, and gentle stretches preparing your body. The brain begins to recognize these cues collectively as a prelude to sleep. You close your eyes briefly, feeling the subtle difference between tired and ready for sleep. Many people underestimate this nuance, rushing into bed exhausted yet mentally charged, creating a paradox where tiredness fails to translate into sleepiness. Here, your pre-sleep ritual acts as a bridge, guiding the transition seamlessly. And let's not forget hydration. You sip a small amount of warm water, maybe a touch of herbal tea. Not too much, after all, no one enjoys waking in the night to sprint to the bathroom, but enough to settle the throat, cool the mouth, and signal bodily care. Oddly, some ancient Greek physicians recommended sipping honey-infused warm milk for exactly this purpose, to calm the nervous system and soothe the digestive tract. Scholars still argue whether lactose or protein content is the primary driver of the sedative effect, but you're inclined to believe it's the ritual as much as the beverage. The last step in this nighttime welcome ritual is a gentle mental rehearsal. You imagine a slow countdown, 10 deep breaths, each exhale loosening more tension, each inhale drawing calm energy. You picture yourself drifting over the surfaces of your bed, weightless, unhurried. Odd little fact, in early 20th century Europe, people practiced sleep imagery, imagining themselves floating on clouds or gentle rivers to induce slumber. Scholars still debate the scientific validity, but you feel its effect immediately. Muscles soften, the mind slows. You glance at the faint glow of your phone screen. Notifications silenced, brightness minimized, your virtual life paused. In this moment, you are fully present in your bedroom cocoon, a microcosm of calm. Scholars still argue whether modern blue light filters genuinely reduce melatonin suppression, but anecdotal consensus is that limiting screen exposure is key. You notice your own eyes growing heavier, the rhythm of your breath deepening, each exhale longer than the last. A soft smile crosses your face as you acknowledge the humor in your meticulousness. You've created a ritual so layered that skipping any step might feel almost rebellious. You probably won't survive the night if you ignore the sequence, and yet here you are, immersed in small, deliberate actions. Odd historical tidbits, gentle hums, pillow adjustments, and sipping rituals all converge to build a sanctuary for rest. Finally, you allow yourself a mental nod. The space is prepared, the mind is easing, and the body is primed. You remember my cheeky note. This is a night you probably won't survive without care. Now, in this careful orchestration, you do. Each element, light, sound, posture, hydration, mental rehearsal, serves a purpose. Each breath brings you closer to the threshold where sleep naturally takes over, effortlessly. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sink slightly into your mattress, feeling the world fade into shadows, leaving only the quiet hum of your sanctuary, ready for the next tip, the next ritual, and the unfolding sequence that will carry you into deep, restorative sleep. You lie there, feeling the first hints of drowsiness brush against your consciousness, but your mind is still buzzing with the day's leftover thoughts. It's subtle, almost like a whisper, but enough to keep sleep at arm's length.
Tonight, you'll explore mind unwinding techniques designed to calm your racing thoughts and coax your brain into a restful state. Scholars still argue whether these techniques genuinely alter the brain's sleep architecture, yet countless nightly anecdotes confirm that the ritual of deliberate mental unwinding works wonders. You start with the simplest approach, progressive muscle relaxation. Your toes curl and unclench slowly, followed by calves, thighs, and hips. You notice how tension slowly trickles away, almost like a faint river dissolving knots in the rocks beneath. Oddly enough, in 16th century Italy, physicians recommended gentle body undulations before bed, tiny movements that mimic modern stretches, believing they prepared the soul and body for slumber. You might smile at the quirk, but your muscles, hips, and shoulders begin to feel lighter already. Now you shift attention to your breathing pattern. You inhale deeply, counting silently to 4, hold for 2, then exhale for 6. Your chest rises, your belly softens, and your mind begins following the rhythm. This isn't just a fanciful suggestion. Research shows that slow, controlled breathing reduces sympathetic nervous system activity, lowers cortisol, and increases parasympathetic activation, which promotes relaxation. You can practically feel the tension slipping from your shoulders as each exhale becomes longer, more deliberate, more freeing. Odd little detail. Some ancient Chinese scholars believed that breathing through the nose while imagining a cooling river flowing through the body could balance the qi and prepare the mind for sleep. Scholars today still debate the direct physiological effect, but you sense the metaphor's subtle psychological influence, as imagery alone calms scattered thoughts. Next, you engage in a mental decluttering exercise. You imagine placing each stray thought, emails, errands, worries, fleeting arguments, into small labeled boxes and gently pushing them onto a virtual shelf. This is like tidying the attic of your mind, creating space for calm and quiet. Historical tidbit. Monastic scribes in medieval Europe would perform a ritual mental sorting, mind filing, to prevent intrusive thoughts during evening prayers. Oddly enough, you find the same principle applies centuries later. Organizing thoughts outside your active consciousness frees the mind to relax. You let your gaze drift inward, visualizing a soft golden light enveloping your mental landscape. Each worry transforms into a gently glowing orb, fading slowly as you acknowledge it but refuse to chase it. Scholars still argue whether guided imagery or visualization significantly speeds up sleep onset. Yet countless studies on relaxation therapy highlight the benefit of turning abstract anxieties into structured mental images. You feel the calming effect almost immediately. The mind shifts from hyperactive chaos to gentle, rhythmic contemplation. Your hands rest on your stomach, noting the subtle rise and fall of your abdomen with each breath. You imagine tension melting with each exhale. Odd fact, during the Victorian era, abdominal breathing was suggested in self-help guides as a method to reduce nightly anxiety, a strange precursor to modern breathing techniques. You may smirk at the quirkiness, but your body responds, muscles loosening, heartbeat steadying. Next comes mindful attention to bodily sensations. You scan your body from head to toe, observing areas of tension without judgment. You note the slight tightness in your jaw, the pressure across your shoulders, the subtle strain in your lower back. By simply noticing, without attempting to fix immediately, you allow the mind to release control and stop gripping each sensation with unnecessary worry. Odd historical tidbit. Japanese Zen monks practiced this body mindfulness centuries ago, sitting in meditation to observe, not alter, every twitch and twinge. Scholars still debate the optimal method, but the principle remains timeless. Then you let your thoughts drift to pleasant, mundane imagery. Perhaps you picture a quiet forest path, sunlight filtering through leaves, the sound of distant birds. Oddly, in the 1920s, psychologists experimenting with dreamscapes found that mundane, detailed imagery was more effective than exciting or dramatic fantasies for initiating sleep. Scholars still argue whether novelty or familiarity works better, but tonight the familiar calm of gentle woods seems ideal. A subtle smile crosses your lips as you perform a gratitude reflection. You acknowledge small victories of the day, simple joys, and moments of laughter, letting them anchor your mind in positivity. Odd fact, in ancient Rome, citizens were encouraged to list 3 things for which they were thankful before sleep, believing it eased the mind into rest. Scholars still debate the neurological underpinnings, but you feel an undeniable mental release. Next, you introduce auditory cues, the gentle hum of your fan, soft white noise, or perhaps a low-frequency nature track. Odd historical note, in the 1700s, French aristocrats employed wind chimes and fountain trickles to mask disruptive sounds at night, a primitive form of sleep sound therapy. Scholars still argue over optimal frequencies and patterns, but your ears embrace the calming repetition, further signaling your nervous system to unwind. Finally, you incorporate micro-meditation moments, 5 breaths fully immersed in the present. You sense the mattress beneath you, the texture of sheets, the soft pull of covers. Scholars still argue whether meditation before sleep accelerates REM cycles, but the calming effect is palpable. Muscles slacken, heartbeat slows, eyelids heavy. Oddly enough, even 18th century diaries record wealthy Europeans counting breaths or imagining gentle waves to encourage sleep, history repeating itself in modern ASMR rituals. By now, your racing thoughts have given way to gentle streams of imagery, rhythmic breathing, and relaxed awareness. You feel a soft weightlessness in your body, the mental clutter sorted, the nervous system nudged toward rest. Odd historical footnote, during the Tang Dynasty, some scholars documented a practice called nighttime mind sorting, a precursor to modern cognitive behavioral techniques for sleep. Scholars still debate the effectiveness, but here you are, centuries later, quietly benefiting from similar methods. You take one last deep inhale, feeling the subtle mixture of relief and anticipation as sleep edges closer. Your body, mind, and environment converge into a singular state of readiness. You notice that your hands feel heavier on the bed, your legs sink slightly, and a soft warmth spreads across your chest. It's subtle but unmistakable. The ritual has worked. Now you rest, aware of each sensory anchor, the fan, the sheets, the rhythmic breath, and allow the mind to drift where it will, unencumbered. You've completed the mind unwinding section of your nighttime ritual, creating a space for sleep to enter effortlessly. The foundation is laid. The next layers of tonight's journey will build seamlessly on this groundwork, ensuring deep, restorative rest awaits.
Your body is a temple, though sometimes it feels more like a cluttered storage room. Tonight you learn how diet shapes sleep and why what you consume during the day lingers in your bloodstream long after you've put away your plate. You sip water slowly, sensing the cool liquid move down your throat, a gentle reminder that hydration sets the stage for rest. Scholars still argue whether fluid intake timing has a direct effect on circadian rhythms, yet history shows cultures instinctively recognize diet's role in nightly rest. You recall the last time you drank coffee too late, heart racing, mind buzzing, eyelids rebelling. Caffeine, the sly villain of countless midnight tales, blocks adenosine, that sleepy chemical building in your brain. Odd fact, in the Ottoman Empire, coffee houses stayed open into the early morning, filled with scholars debating poetry and politics, while common folk joked that those addicted to the bean never truly slept. Centuries later, you're caught in the same biochemical tug of war. The advice is clear: cut caffeine at least 6 hours before bed. You nod inwardly, promising yourself this simple act of restraint. Your thoughts wandered to sugar spikes and crashes. You remember a late-night dessert binge, sweet bliss followed by restlessness, then a crash into shallow, fragmented sleep. Oddly enough, Victorian doctors warned against sweet puddings too close to bedtime, claiming they stirred up dreamful unrest. Scholars still argue whether glycemic index or total sugar load is the greater culprit, but your lived experience affirms the wisdom. Sugar too late equals chaos. Tonight you vow moderation, letting your digestive system off the hook before bed. Then comes alcohol, the deceptive sedative. A glass of wine might make you drowsy, but you've noticed the cruel trick. Waking up at 3 a.m., restless, dehydrated, heart beating oddly fast. Odd fact, in medieval monasteries, monks sometimes brewed low-alcohol beers specifically designed for evening consumption, weaker than water by today's standards. Scholars still argue whether small doses can aid or hinder sleep architecture, but the consensus is steady. Alcohol disrupts REM, fragments rest, and leaves you groggy. You whisper a resigned farewell to that one last drink ritual. You reflect on heavy dinners, that bloated, leaden feeling after feasting too late, the body digesting when it should be repairing. In ancient Greece, Hippocrates himself advised light evening meals to avoid night terrors caused by indigestion. Oddly enough, some Roman banquets stretched till dawn, proving humans never quite learned restraint. Tonight you opt for a lighter dinner, knowing your stomach won't fight your brain for nighttime dominance. Hydration enters the scene again. Too little and you wake parched. Too much and bathroom trips ruin the night. The balance is delicate. Odd historical tidbit: Japanese tea ceremonies often ended before sunset, partly to avoid nocturnal disruptions. Scholars still argue about optimal intake, but you decide to listen to your body's quiet signals. You sip slowly, comfortably, avoiding extremes. Next comes sleep-supportive foods. You picture almonds, kiwis, chamomile tea, and warm milk, ancient remedies echoed in modern nutrition science. Odd fact: in 12th century Persia, warm milk mixed with honey was prescribed as a sleep potion. Scholars still argue whether tryptophan or melatonin-rich compounds drive the effect, but you lean into the comfort of ritual itself. That warm, soothing beverage signals your brain time to rest. Your senses recall spices and stimulants. Chili, garlic, rich curries, delicious but fiery, linger in the digestive tract, spiking metabolism and heart rate. Oddly enough, Aztec warriors consumed chili-laden meals before night vigils, knowing they'd stay alert. You chuckle softly. If your goal is sleep, perhaps it's wiser to leave fiery foods for daytime adventures. You reflect on modern oddities. Energy drinks, hidden caffeine and chocolate, the sly addition of stimulants and supplements. Scholars still argue whether these subtle doses truly disrupt sleep in all individuals, but you've learned to trust your body's response. A restless night here, an alert pulse there, it adds up. Tonight you set boundaries, choosing calm nourishment over hidden jolts. There's also the quirky subject of fermented foods. Yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut, gut health linked to sleep health. Odd fact, in 18th century Germany, doctors prescribed sauerkraut juice as a nerve tonic for restless sleepers. Scholars still debate whether gut microbiome directly influences circadian rhythms, but evidence grows steadily. You imagine billions of tiny bacteria inside, quietly harmonizing with your brainwaves. Another odd alliance of biology and bedtime. Your gaze drifts inward to timing. Breakfast too small, dinner too large, late-night snacking. Your circadian rhythm notices. Oddly enough, in Ayurveda, eating cycles tied to the sun's position dictated health, with heavy foods reserved for daylight hours. Scholars still argue whether modern lifestyles make this impractical, but you sense the wisdom of syncing meals with daylight. Tonight you feel the truth. Earlier is lighter, lighter is calmer. Then a small curiosity: magnesium in sleep. Dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, spinach. Foods rich in this mineral act like natural muscle relaxants. Odd historical quirk: 19th century European doctors called magnesium nature's sleep salt, prescribing mineral baths and powders. Scholars still argue whether supplementation is universally effective, but you recall how after a spinach-heavy dinner, your body felt oddly heavier, calmer, more ready for rest. Coincidence? Maybe. Comfort? Definitely. You pause to reflect on how cultures across the globe converged on this simple truth: what you eat dictates how you sleep. Egyptians drank calming herbal infusions, Native Americans chewed certain roots before rest, and medieval Europeans concocted nutmeg tonics to soothe restless minds. Each tradition, though quirky, carried fragments of modern sleep science hidden within folklore. By now your mental map is clearer. Avoid caffeine late, ease off sugar, skip alcohol tricks, keep dinner light, embrace soothing foods, balance hydration, respect spices, and sync meals with daylight. Each choice becomes not just a dietary adjustment, but a ritual honoring the night. Your body, that temple or cluttered storage room, feels a little more like a sanctuary again. The digestive system sighs in relief, the bloodstream calms, and the mind receives the message: nourishment has been kind, balance restored, sleep awaits. You smile, knowing tomorrow's choices will ripple into tonight's dreams. Oddly enough, that same smile mirrors the ancient wisdom of countless sleepers before you. The ritual of mindful eating, tested across cultures, whispered through centuries, now settles into your own routine. Your body thanks you silently as the night deepens.
You glance around your room, and suddenly it feels like a stage. The mattress, the pillows, the blankets, these are not just props. They are the foundation of your nightly ritual. Tonight, you're about to discover how bedroom environment shapes sleep more powerfully than you realized. Your body is ready, your mind calmer from unwinding and mindful eating, but the room itself either embraces or betrays you. Scholars still argue whether environmental tweaks affect sleep as deeply as biology, but centuries of tradition and modern science both agree. Atmosphere matters. First, you notice the lighting. A soft lamp glows in the corner, warm and amber. You dim it further, letting shadows stretch like velvet across the room. Odd fact, in ancient Rome, people avoided bright torches before bed, believing the flame's intensity unsettled dreams. Today's science echoes their instincts. Exposure to blue light suppresses melatonin, delaying sleep. You glance at your phone screen, smirk, then flip it face down. Tonight, shadows win. Then comes temperature. The air feels a touch too warm, clinging to your skin. You nudge the fan higher, welcoming that cool whisper across your cheeks. Oddly enough, 18th century French aristocrats built elaborate sleeping chambers with chilled marble floors, convinced cool air ensured better rest. Scholars still argue about the precise, ideal sleep temperature, between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, most studies say, but you already feel the shift as your body sighs in relief, heat dispersing into the night. Your gaze drops to the mattress beneath you. Soft yet supportive, but you remember the restless nights on that sagging couch, tossing endlessly. Odd historical note. Medieval peasants stuffed mattresses with straw, occasionally mixing in herbs like lavender for calming scents. You chuckle at the thought, yet the principle remains. Comfort plus scent equals better sleep. Tonight, your mattress seems like a throne, cradling you just right. Then the pillows. Too flat, and your neck strains. Too thick, and your spine curves oddly. You adjust one behind your head, another by your side.
Oddly enough, in ancient China, porcelain headrests were crafted not for comfort, but to preserve elaborate hairstyles, even if sleep suffered. Scholars still argue whether ergonomic design or personal preference matters more, but your neck thanks you instantly for choosing comfort over tradition. You notice blankets and sheets. Their texture whispers against your skin. Soft cotton, cool to the touch. You recall nights tangled in heavy covers, sweating, restless. Odd fact, in the Victorian era, beds were piled with multiple wool blankets, sometimes exceeding 20 pounds in weight, an accidental precursor to today's weighted blankets. Scholars still debate whether the gentle pressure truly soothes anxiety, but you sense the calming embrace as the covers rest against your body. Sound enters your awareness. The hum of the fan, faint traffic outside, a neighbor's muffled footsteps. You adjust, adding a layer of white noise from your phone. Steady rainfall, rhythmic and neutral. Oddly enough, in the 1700s, sailors reported sleeping better to the sound of waves than on silent nights in port. Scholars still argue whether the brain prefers silence or sound masking, but you melt into the rhythm, distractions blurred away. Your nose catches a scent. Lavender spray misted earlier, subtle yet noticeable. Odd historical detail. In ancient Egypt, lavender and chamomile were burned in bedrooms to honor gods of dreams. Today, aromatherapy studies highlight their role in reducing nighttime anxiety. You breathe in, the floral note curling into your senses, a delicate nudge toward peace. Then comes the clutter factor. Your eyes sweep the room, clothes folded neatly, desk cleared. It feels spacious, unburdened. You recall the nights when laundry piles loomed like mountains, each item reminding you of unfinished tasks. Odd fact, Japanese minimalists believe that clutter anchors restless energy, preventing restful sleep. Scholars still argue whether the visual field directly alters sleep quality, but you know the truth in your bones. Tidy room, tidy mind. You consider color psychology. The walls around you wear soft neutrals, calming shades that don't shout. Odd tidbit. In the 19th century, hospitals painted sleeping wards light blue, convinced it calmed patients. Modern studies echo that soft tones, blues, grays, earth colors, lower blood pressure and heart rate. You exhale, grateful you didn't choose neon orange. Next, you adjust sleep position. On your back, arms relaxed, then sideways, knees tucked slightly. Odd historical quirk? Medieval Europeans often slept sitting upright, propped with pillows, fearing that lying flat would invite disease. Scholars still argue about the ideal posture, but tonight you let instinct guide you. Whatever position feels safe, supported, and effortless. You also think about technology. The glowing router light, the blinking TV standby dot, the lurking temptation of a phone. Oddly enough, Thomas Edison's invention of the light bulb didn't just brighten evenings, it rewired human sleep schedules. Scholars still debate whether artificial light shortened natural sleep cycles, but you know one thing. Devices off equals peace. Tonight, silence reigns. Your body responds almost instantly. Shoulders loosen, jaw unclenches, eyelids sink heavier. The synergy between environment and biology is palpable. Odd fact, Inuit tribes in the Arctic used sealskin blankets, perfect for blocking both cold and light during endless summers. They understood environment-dictated rest, just as you do now. Now you imagine this space as a sanctuary, designed intentionally for sleep. Cool air, soft light, supportive bedding, soothing scents, calming sounds, uncluttered visuals, all weaving together into a cocoon. Scholars still argue whether psychology or physiology carries more weight here,
But you know the truth. The line between them blurs when comfort enters. Your hand drifts along the sheets, fingertips tracing the fabric's weave. You inhale deeply, the lavender lingering, the fan humming, the room bathed in shadows. You think back to travelers across centuries who built their own sleep havens. Nomads carrying rugs, monks arranging prayer mats, sailors stringing hammocks. Each environment mattered, each ritual sacred. Tonight, yours is no different. You close your eyes briefly, listening to your breath blend with the room's atmosphere. The environment doesn't just hold you, it becomes part of you. You're not merely lying in a bed, you're participating in a centuries-old human pursuit, crafting the perfect sleep chamber. And as the night deepens, you know this sanctuary will carry you deeper into rest, holding you steady as the mind drifts and dreams begin their quiet march. You're lying there, rituals done, body calm, but still, you know the deeper rhythm that governs your night isn't just habit, it's circadian rhythms, the ancient clock ticking inside your brain, older than civilization itself. Tonight, you trace how this hidden system, the body's timekeeper, orchestrates every yawn, every stretch, every eyelid droop. Scholars still argue whether light, genetics, or lifestyle is the dominant conductor, but you feel the truth. All three sing in chorus. You start with the sun. Its rising and setting has dictated human sleep since time immemorial. You recall a morning when you woke at dawn without an alarm, body humming with clarity. Odd fact, ancient Babylonians built sundials not just to track hours, but to align prayer and rest with celestial rhythms. Science today confirms what they intuited. Light entering your eyes resets your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the tiny brain cluster orchestrating circadian timing. Then comes the hormone symphony. Melatonin, secreted as evening falls, whispers to your body, it's time. Cortisol, the morning alarm, nudges you awake. Odd historical quirk, medieval farmers described melatonin effects without knowing the name, calling it the night's comfort. Scholars still argue whether artificial melatonin supplements mimic the body's version perfectly, but your biology already knows. Darkness equals sleep readiness. You reflect on blue light, that sly intruder. Phones, tablets, TVs, miniature suns glowing past midnight. You remember those nights of endless scrolling, eyes dry, mind wired. Odd fact, Thomas Edison, after inventing the light bulb, bragged that humans would no longer be slaves to the setting sun. He was right, but at a cost. Disrupted circadian patterns. Tonight, you smirk, then turn your screen away, surrendering to ancestral rhythms. Temperature plays its role too. Your core body heat dips naturally in the evening, syncing with circadian cues. Odd tidbit, in the Arctic, where sun lingers for weeks, indigenous groups used firelight rituals and clothing layers to simulate dusk, tricking their bodies to rest. Scholars still debate whether temperature changes or light cues dominate, but you sense the synergy. Cooler air, dim light, body ready. You think of chronotypes, night owls and early birds. You've known the struggle of forcing yourself into someone else's schedule. Odd fact, in medieval Europe, there was even a name for the midnight workers called second sleepers, who woke between two cycles of rest. Scholars still argue whether biphasic sleep is natural or merely adaptive to pre-industrial life. You chuckle, imagining yourself thriving in those midnight hours centuries ago. Jet lag flashes across your memory, that strange dislocation when circadian rhythm misaligns with local time. Odd quirk, in the 1960s, pilots nicknamed it time sickness, long before the term jet lag stuck.
Your body doesn't care what your ticket says. It clings stubbornly to home rhythms. Scholars still argue whether exposure to morning light or timed melatonin is the quicker cure, but either way, you felt the fog firsthand. You sense the rhythm of meals tying in. Eat late and the body's clock shifts, eat early and it anchors closer to daylight. Odd historical tidbit, Roman feasts dragged late into the night, with diarists complaining of unsettled dreams after gluttonous midnight banquets. Tonight, your earlier, lighter dinner feels like a respectful nod to your circadian biology. Then there's the role of exercise. A late workout leaves you wired, adrenaline refusing to fade. Odd fact, in ancient Greece, athletes avoided heavy training after sunset, believing muscles needed to sleep with the stars. Scholars still argue whether evening exercise truly delays sleep, but you felt the stimulation in your pulse enough to know timing matters. Your thoughts drift to seasonal rhythms. Longer summer days stretch activity, shorter winters compress it. Odd historical quirk, in medieval Europe, people slept longer in winter, often 9 or 10 hours compared to shorter summer rests. Scholars still debate whether modern humans lost this flexibility, but you feel the faint tug when winter's early darkness draws you under. You imagine how shift workers fight their biology. Odd fact, in the early 20th century, factories hired night gangs who struggled with fatigue, earning lower productivity and higher accident rates. Even today, graveyard shifts leave bodies misaligned. Scholars still argue whether humans can ever fully adapt to inverted schedules, but you sense the answer in your bones. We're wired for sun and moon, not fluorescent midnight holes. You recall quirky experiments, volunteers living in caves with no clocks, days stretching into 25-hour cycles before stabilizing. Odd fact, in the 1960s, French explorer Michel Siffre lived underground for 2 months, losing track of time until his body created its own rhythm. Scholars still debate whether his isolation revealed true natural cycles, but you marvel at the resilience of human biology. Your own body clock ticks quietly inside. Evening cortisol drops, melatonin seeps, temperature dips, digestion slows, alertness fades. It's not magic, not mystery, just millions of years of evolution carving night from day, wake from rest. Tonight, you surrender to that design. You smile at the odd thought. Scholars still argue whether we're prisoners of our circadian rhythms or masters who can bend them. But lying here, lights dim, body cooling, rituals complete, you know the truth. Harmony, not rebellion, brings the sweetest sleep. Your breaths deepen, your body hums in sync with rhythms written in your DNA, older than pyramids, older than language itself. And tonight, you honor that clock. You've surrendered to the rhythm, but your body whispers again. Bedroom environment. This is the stage, and if the set isn't right, the play falters. Tonight, you inspect every corner, every shadow, every sound, shaping the perfect cave for sleep. It's not obsession, it's craft. After all, you don't blame an actor if the stage lights blind him, you blame the setup. First, the bed itself. You lie back, tracing the way the mattress holds you. Too soft, and you sink like quicksand. Too firm, and your shoulders ache. Odd fact. In ancient Rome, the elite stuffed mattresses with feathers, while commoners filled sacks with straw. Scholars still argue whether firmness or plushness is better, but you know comfort is a personal contract, not a universal rule. Then the pillow, the silent negotiator between head and spine. Too high, and your neck bends like a question mark. Too low, and your throat collapses. Odd quirk. Medieval Europe saw pillows as a luxury, with some monks avoiding them entirely, calling them tools of vanity. Tonight, you smile, grateful that you live in a world where vanity equals proper spinal alignment. You listen to the air, the temperature wrapping you. Science says cooler is better, around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, your body's own sleep signal. Odd fact, in Japan, futon culture developed partly from unheated homes. Thin bedding on tatami mats allowed bodies to cool naturally. Scholars still argue whether warmth or coolness ensures deeper sleep, but you feel the shift every time a fan hums. Light comes next. Darkness is sacred here. Your eyes scan for glows, LED clocks, hallway spills, street lamps outside. Odd quirk. In the 19th century, gas lamps extended night in cities, prompting doctors to warn about light poisoning. Tonight, blackout curtains feel like armor, shielding your circadian rhythm. Scholars still debate how much dim light disrupts melatonin, but your instincts know pitch black is sanctuary. You notice sound. Silence, not always possible, but peace is negotiable. Odd Egyptian fact. Ancient Egyptians slept in desert huts where sand muffled noise, considering it sacred rest space. Tonight, you play white noise. The fan, the hum, the static ocean, masking the world's jagged edges. Scholars still argue whether silence or white noise is best, but you feel the shift every time a fan hums. Scents, subtle but powerful, float around you. Lavender, chamomile, cedar, nature's whispers. Odd historical tidbit. Roman baths used lavender oil as a sedative, believing it chased away restless spirits. Tonight, one drop on your pillow edges you closer to dreams. Scholars still argue whether aromatherapy has measurable impact, but your nose doesn't need convincing. You shift to clutter, the hidden thief. A messy room hums with unfinished tasks, a mental itch. Odd fact, in Japanese minimalism, sleep spaces are cleared nightly, futons rolled up each morning, symbolizing renewal. Tonight, you notice how your tidy nightstand, empty of distractions, calms your thoughts. Scholars still debate whether visual order directly affects sleep, but you felt the quiet of a clear room. Technology lurks here too. That glowing rectangle you once scrolled under covers, it doesn't belong. Odd historical quirk. Early 20th century sleepers read newspapers by candlelight. The flames dance, lulling them gently. You contrast it with LED blue light, piercing like midday sun. Tonight, your phone rests away from the bed, face down. Scholars still argue whether mere proximity disturbs, but you know the temptation is the real enemy. Even colors matter. Walls painted in calm tones soothe, while harsh brights agitate. Odd ancient Chinese fact, bedrooms were often painted with soft greens and blues, symbolizing harmony and calm. Scholars still debate whether color psychology is real or placebo, but you feel the difference when the warm hues wrap the space. You stretch out again and notice the textures. Sheets cool and smooth, blanket weighty enough to cocoon. Odd historical quirk. Weighted blankets gain popularity in therapy, mimicking the calming effect of deep pressure. Scholars still argue whether they truly improve sleep or just comfort the anxious, but tonight the steady weight feels like an embrace. Then the ritual objects. Maybe a glass of water on the nightstand, maybe a small book, its pages already marked. Odd historical detail. Medieval sleepers often kept small charms under pillows, herbs, stones, even tiny written prayers. Tonight, your minimalist setup feels modern, but the impulse is ancient, a bedside talisman guarding dreams. You consider the partner factor. If you share a bed, the environment doubles in complexity. Odd historical fact, ancient Norse couples often slept in alcove beds,
boxed into the wall, providing warmth but also privacy. Scholars still argue whether co-sleeping improves or hinders rest, but you felt both, the comfort of presence, the irritation of snores. Tonight, it's balance, negotiated under shared blankets. Pets too. That cat curling at your feet, the dog sprawled like royalty. Odd historical tidbit, in Victorian England, lapdogs were often bed companions, despite doctors warning about animal-borne vapors. Tonight, you weigh the comfort of warmth against the midnight paw stretch. Scholars still argue whether pets calm or disturb, but your heart often wins over science. The last check, air quality. Stale air breeds restlessness. Fresh flow soothes. Odd quirk. In medieval castles, narrow slits doubled as ventilation, keeping rooms airy at night. Tonight, your slightly open window carries a whisper of breeze. Scholars still debate whether purified air directly aids sleep, but you breathe deeper all the same. Now, with stage perfected, body aligned, you surrender. The environment is not just backdrop, it's co-star, shaping your night's journey. You think of all the odd quirks, the debates, the ancient habits. You smirk, imagining monks scoffing at pillows or Romans inhaling lavender. And yet here you are, wrapped in silence, air cool, sheets smooth, darkness deep. Your room isn't just a space, it's a lullaby. And tonight, the lullaby hums perfectly. You've tuned the room, shaped the stage, and yet, you know the mind is trickier than any mattress or blackout curtain. Tonight, you wander into the realm of mental stress and worry, the invisible weight that tosses and turns you long after lights go out. Sleep isn't just body, it's brain. And your brain, oh, it loves rehearsing the day when it should be clocking out. Stress whispers first. You lie down, but thoughts replay like a highlight reel. Conversations, mistakes, to-do lists. Odd fact, ancient Sanskrit texts described insomnia as chittodvega, literally mind agitation. Thousands of years ago, people were already describing what you feel now, a restless brain refusing to dim. Scholars still argue whether modern stress is worse than ancient, but lying here, deadlines throb louder than lions ever did. Your breath quickens with anxiety. You remember that night before an exam, sheets tangled, ceiling familiar by dawn. Odd quirk. Napoleon bragged he could sleep anywhere, anytime. Yet his letters reveal sleepless nights before battles. Even emperors wrestled with racing thoughts. Scholars still argue whether worry sharpens the mind or destroys it. But you felt both, the clarity of urgency, the ruin of exhaustion. The fight-or-flight response is biology's prank. It kept ancestors alive in jungles, but it sabotages you in bed. Cortisol spikes, heart drums, adrenaline fuels. You're ready to run, not rest. Odd historical tidbit, Victorian doctors prescribed rest cures for nervous patients, locking them in quiet rooms with no stimulation, hoping stillness would tame stress. Tonight, you think of those silent chambers, both comforting and claustrophobic. Then comes anticipation stress, worrying about not sleeping itself. You've stared at the clock, calculating, if I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours. Now 4. Odd fact, in 19th century Paris, insomniacs were nicknamed night accountants, tallying lost hours. Scholars still argue whether clock watching causes more harm than sleeplessness itself, but you know that vicious cycle firsthand. You try mental escapes. Counting sheep, classic cliche. Odd quirk. The idea comes from medieval shepherds who tallied flocks at night,
their repetitive counting lulling them to doze. Tonight, you test it, watching imaginary woolly bodies hop fences. It's silly, but the monotony softens the edges of thought. Journaling crosses your mind, spilling stress onto paper before bed. Odd historical detail. Leonardo da Vinci filled notebooks at night with sketches and unfinished thoughts, perhaps tricking his mind into unloading. Scholars still argue whether expressive writing truly improves sleep, but your own scribbled lists sometimes feel like mental exorcisms. Meditation offers another route. You focus on breath. Inhale, exhale, tracing rhythm. Odd fact, Buddhist monks practiced yoga nidra, or sleep yoga, centuries ago. Deep relaxation without drifting fully unconscious. Tonight, you feel echoes of that, a gentle hush spreading as you center on breath. Scholars still argue whether meditation leads to faster sleep onset or simply calms anxiety, but either way, it steadies you. Stress isn't always internal. Sometimes it's cultural. Odd quirk, in ancient China, insomniacs were believed to be haunted by ghosts of unfinished tasks. Remedies included symbolic acts of completion, like tearing papers or extinguishing candles. Tonight, you chuckle, thinking how close that is to modern closing tabs on a laptop. Your body keeps score. Tension hides in shoulders, jaw, spine. You stretch, unclench fists. Odd historical tidbit. Roman bathhouses encouraged evening soaks, not just for hygiene, but relaxation. Steam and warmth unwinding the day. Tonight, your warm shower feels like your personal miniature bathhouse. Scholars still argue whether physical tension is cause or effect of poor sleep, but easing it matters either way. Then, the unexpected worry intruders. Songs looping in your head, random memories, even imagined arguments. Odd fact, psychologists call it cognitive arousal. Mental chatter too active to switch off. Medieval monks nicknamed it the devil's echo, blaming restless spirits. Tonight you smile, knowing your brain's just noisy, not possessed. There's humor in it, too. You recall lying awake worrying about not replying to an email. Odd quirk. In 17th century England, insomniacs sometimes hired watchmen to talk to through the night. Literal paid companions against boredom and worry. You imagine explaining your 2 a.m. anxieties to a stranger in the dark. Yet, the solution circles back to acceptance. You stop wrestling, let thoughts drift like clouds instead of battling storms. Odd fact, Stoic philosophers advised this centuries ago, writing, "The mind may wander, but the body rests." Tonight, you loosen your grip, letting worries float past instead of holding them tight. Scholars still debate whether acceptance or distraction works better, but you know the peace of letting go. You smile, half amused, half drowsy. Stress still exists, tomorrow still looms, but for tonight, you've softened its grip. Ancient remedies, odd quirks, scholarly debates, all pointing to the same truth. The mind needs gentleness, not force. Your eyelids droop. The mental noise quiets to background hum. Sleep doesn't come by demand. It comes when the worried mind learns, finally, to whisper instead of shout. You've quieted the mind, but you know the body has its own cravings, its own quirks. Tonight, you explore the world of food, drinks, and stimulants, the unsung villains and secret allies of sleep. Because what you consume by day whispers through the night, shaping dreams or shredding them. First, caffeine, that sly saboteur,
A morning cup wakes you, but an evening one lingers like an uninvited guest. Odd fact, caffeine's half-life means a coffee at 4 p.m. can still hum in your system past midnight. Scholars still argue whether habitual drinkers develop immunity, but your restless nights after late lattes suggest the body remembers every drop. Tea comes next, softer, subtler, but still sneaky. Odd historical tidbit. In ancient China, tea was both medicine and ritual, with emperors sipping it at dawn, but rarely at dusk. Tonight, you remember your own green tea mistake. Meant to calm, it buzzed like hidden static instead. Scholars still argue whether tea's theanine cancels its caffeine, but your twitching legs knew the answer. Then there's alcohol, the false friend. A glass of wine smooths the edges, sure, but deeper into the night, REM sleep shatters, dreams scatter, body wakes unrefreshed. Odd fact, Shakespeare wrote of wine, it provokes the desire, but it takes away the performance. He wasn't just talking about romance. Scholars still debate whether moderate evening alcohol aids or hinders, but you felt both. The drowsy drift in, the 3 a.m. snap awake. Food matters too. A heavy dinner drags the body down, stomach grinding overtime. Odd historical quirk, Romans ate their biggest meal at midday, keeping evenings light. Sine parva, somnus dulcis, they said. Light dinner, sweet sleep. Tonight you think of greasy takeout nights, the regret of burping into pillows. Scholars still argue whether digestion directly disrupts REM sleep, but your bloated belly never needed proof. Spices and sweets dance in the mix. Chili heat late at night, a furnace in your gut. Odd fact, Aztecs drank spicy chocolate at dusk, believing it opened dream doors to the gods. Tonight you smirk, imagining those fiery midnight visions. Scholars still debate whether sugar spikes disturb sleep, but the 2 a.m. crash feels undeniable. On the flip side, certain foods soothe. Warm milk, rich in tryptophan, the precursor to melatonin. Odd quirk, medieval Europe prescribed milk posits, warm milk with nutmeg or honey for restless sleepers. Tonight you cradle your own cup, the ritual calming, even if the chemistry is debatable. Scholars still argue whether milk's effect is placebo, but placebo or not, your eyelids grow heavy. Bananas, almonds, oats, all gentle allies. Odd fact, Japanese monks ate small bowls of rice before meditation, believing starch anchored their minds to calm. Tonight you wonder if your late snack of oatmeal had the same grounding effect. Scholars still argue whether such nutrients measurably shift hormones, but you know the comfort of simple food. You think of timing. Eat too late and sleep stumbles. Eat too early and midnight hunger jolts you awake. Odd historical tidbit. In medieval monasteries, dinner bells rang at sunset, ensuring digestion ended before evening prayers. Tonight you see the wisdom. Your earlier dinner leaves space for rest. Hydration plays its trick too. Drink too little, you wake dry-mouthed. Too much, and bathroom trips break the night. Odd fact, Ottoman sultans sipped tiny cups of water before bed, never more, never less, believing excess water carried away dreams. Scholars still debate hydration's exact effect on sleep, but your own bladder has staged plenty of midnight rebellions. You recall strange remedies, warm herbal teas, honey tonics, even vinegar drinks. Odd quirk, in ancient Greece, insomniacs drank lettuce juice, believing lettuce carried sleep-giving spirits. Tonight you're grateful for chamomile instead. Scholars still argue whether these folk cures had any chemical base, but their ritual comfort lingers through history.
And then the stimulants beyond food. Nicotine, deceptively calming, is a true stimulant, keeping the brain sharp long after the cigarette ends. Odd historical tidbit. Sailors in the 18th century chewed tobacco at night to stay awake on watch. Tonight, you realize how opposite your goal is. You seek surrender, not vigilance. Scholars still argue whether habitual smokers can adapt, but sleep disruption leaves its mark. You think of cultures that wove food and sleep together. Odd fact, in Spain, late-night tapas pair with siesta culture, balancing rest with indulgence. In contrast, Japanese minimal dinners reflect efficiency and restraint. Scholars still debate whether cultural meal timing or genetics explain differences in sleep quality, but you sense both play roles. Modern life complicates things further. Energy drinks at night, sugar-loaded snacks glowing in vending machines, sleep teas promising miracles. Odd quirk, in the 1990s, marketers sold Dream Water, a melatonin-laced drink in glowing bottles. Tonight, you see the pattern, people chasing shortcuts to what ancient wisdom already knew. Your own body whispers clearer rules. Light dinner, fewer stimulants, mindful rituals. No coffee after noon, no heavy loads, no false allies in bottles. You smile, remembering odd facts, quirky remedies, scholarly debates, but all roads lead to the same lesson. What enters by day shapes the night. You stretch, stomach calm, blood steady, mind easy. Tonight, you give sleep no excuses, no caffeine, no heavy loads, no false allies, just calm fuel, simple rituals, and silence afterward. Your body sighs, grateful. The feast is done. Now comes the fast of dreams. You've managed food, you've watched the drinks, and yet there's another layer in this puzzle: physical activity and exercise. Your body is an engine, and engines don't idle well. Too little movement and you're restless. Too much at the wrong time and you're wired. Tonight, you trace how movement shapes the night. You recall mornings when you skipped exercise, sitting all day and then lying awake, legs buzzing with unused energy. Odd fact, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, prescribed walking after meals as a cure for sleeplessness. A walk clears the pathways of the body, he wrote. Scholars still argue whether his advice holds physiologically, but you felt it. Idle muscles protest. Then the flip side, those late-night workouts. You remember running after sunset, lungs heaving, pulse thundering, and hours later, still staring at the ceiling. Odd quirk, in ancient Greece, athletes avoided training after sundown, believing the body must rest with the stars. Tonight, you nod at their wisdom. Scholars still debate whether vigorous evening exercise delays sleep onset, but your adrenaline in your veins tells its own story. Yet exercise isn't the enemy, it's the balance. Moderate movement, well-timed, works like a lullaby. Odd historical tidbit, Roman citizens took evening strolls called digestiones, gentle walks after supper meant to aid digestion and rest. Tonight, you imagine yourself pacing stone streets, oil lamps flickering, body settling for the night. You think of the endorphin surge, that post-workout high. It sharpens mood, softens stress. Odd fact, medieval soldiers were advised to march briskly before bedding down, believing sweat chased away nightmares. Scholars still argue whether exercise directly alters dream quality, but your calmer nights after gym days feel like proof. Then comes stretching, gentle, deliberate, almost meditative. You lie down, legs extended, arms overhead, spine unwinding. Odd quirk, in Japanese culture, radio calisthenics, Ragyo Taiso, have been practiced for nearly a century, with morning routines broadcast nationwide. Tonight, you borrow that idea, stretching lightly before bed, muscles humming. Scholars still debate whether stretching physiologically aids sleep or simply relaxes, but your softened body knows. You consider yoga, the ancient practice blending breath and posture. Odd historical detail. Yogis described poses like Supta Baddha Konasana as sleep preparing centuries before sleep science existed. Tonight, you try a simple forward fold. Head bowed, body signaling surrender. Scholars still argue whether yoga's benefits are chemical or psychological, but your slowed breath feels like evidence enough. Movement also ties into exposure to daylight. Odd fact, in Victorian England, doctors prescribed constitutional walks, brisk outdoor strolls to align body rhythms. Exercise under sun, they claimed, locked circadian clocks in place. Tonight, you think of your own afternoon walk, how sunlight and steps sync together like twin gears. But beware the sedentary trap. Hours slouched before screens leave joints stiff, circulation sluggish. Odd quirk. In the 18th century France, doctors warned of chaise longue syndrome, too much reclining, too little vitality. Tonight, you smirk, thinking of your couch binge sessions. Scholars still argue whether lack of daily movement causes insomnia or merely worsens it, but the cycle feels vicious either way. You drift toward cultural contrasts. In Spain, late-night dancing burns energy before siesta culture balances rest. In India, evening cricket matches stretch into night. Odd fact, Chinese martial artists once practiced quiet boxing before bed, slow, flowing forms believed to harmonize sleep. Scholars still debate whether culture or biology dominates, but both shape rest. And then there's the subtlety of timing. Morning workouts energize, afternoon ones balance, evening ones risk overdrive. Odd historical tidbit. In medieval monasteries, monks performed physical chores, hauling water, chopping wood, early, aligning with sunlight, leaving nights untouched. Tonight, you see the wisdom again. Activity belongs to day, stillness to night. You even consider the quirky modern hacks, standing desks, step trackers, and walk-and-talk meetings. Odd quirk, in the 1960s, Japanese companies began workplace calisthenics, believing healthier workers meant better sleep and productivity. Tonight you laugh, imagining coworkers stretching in sync like a sleep cult. Scholars still argue whether such programs genuinely improve rest, but movement woven in today feels natural. Your body whispers gratitude when balanced. Muscles used, but not abused. Breath expanded, but not stolen. Pulse lifted, but not racing at midnight. You think of Hippocrates, Greek athletes, Roman walkers, Japanese radio stretches. All threads of the same truth. The body craves movement, but at the right hour. You lie down, stretching toes, shoulders loose. No wired pulse, no restless twitch. Tonight, the engine idles properly, ready to shut down. You smirk, knowing exercise isn't about exhaustion, it's about rhythm. Move by day, rest by night. That's the covenant. Your body exhales. Muscles soften. You feel the night not as an enemy, but as a cradle. The day's movement's done, you surrender, lighter, calmer, readier for dreams. You've moved, stretched, balanced the body, but another force still reigns: technology and screens. They glow like miniature suns, keeping you wired when you should be wandering into dreams. Tonight, you face that digital dragon, tracing how light, sound, and constant pings shape or shatter your night. First comes the blue light. You know it well. Phones, tablets, TVs, all radiating a glow that tricks your brain into thinking it's noon. Odd fact, in the early 2000s, researchers discovered that blue wavelengths suppress melatonin more than any other light. Scholars still argue whether filters and night modes truly help, but your midnight scrolling sessions told you the story already. Alertness, not drowsiness, follows. Then there's the infinite scroll. You tell yourself just 5 minutes, and suddenly it's an hour later, thumb numb, brain buzzing. Odd historical quirk. In the 19th century, readers were warned against serial fiction addiction, where nightly novel chapters kept them awake. Tonight, you smile, realizing every era has its glowing temptations. Scholars still argue whether technology worsens sleep directly or through habit, but either way, the cycle is real. Notifications chime like digital woodpeckers. A buzz, a ding, a vibration, and you're alert again. Odd fact: in Japan, there's a term, chakumano stress, describing the anxiety of late-night ringtone interruptions. Tonight, your phone sits face down, silenced, finally out of reach. Scholars still argue whether it's the light, the sound, or the anticipation that harms most, but the effect is the same: fractured rest. You think of late-night gaming, adrenaline spiking as battles rage on screens. Odd historical tidbit: in the 1980s, arcade owners noted teenagers staying until dawn, bleary-eyed, bodies slumped. Scholars still debate whether the stimulation is mental, emotional, or purely chemical, but you felt the jolt, heart racing, eyes dry, mind unready to let go. And then there's work disguised as leisure: emails, spreadsheets, endless tasks on glowing screens. Odd quirk: in the 1990s, with the rise of home computers, doctors warned of electronic insomnia, a new breed of sleeplessness. Tonight, you imagine those early warnings, ignored, now blossomed into global reality. Television, once called the sleep thief, still plays its role. The flicker hypnotizes, but then jolts you awake with sudden ads or cliffhangers. Odd historical tidbit: in the 1950s, families often fell asleep in living rooms, television humming, and sleep researchers coined the term sleep slumber. Scholars still argue whether TV harms less than smartphones, but passive glow still disturbs cycles. You remember trying digital cures, sleep apps, meditation tracks, guided audios. Odd fact: the first sleep app appeared in 2008, promising to wake users at perfect moments in their cycles. Tonight, you wonder whether chasing perfect sleep through tech is irony itself. Scholars still debate whether these apps empower or overcomplicate, but you felt both: the calm of guided breathing, the anxiety of analyzing every sleep score. Light pollution enters here too. Screens indoors, street lamps outdoors, the modern refusal to honor darkness. Odd quirk: in 1994, Los Angeles had a blackout, and residents flooded observatories with calls about strange glowing clouds. They were seeing the Milky Way for the first time. Tonight, you marvel at that. True darkness is now a rarity. Then comes the phantom buzz, when you think your phone vibrates, though it hasn't. Odd historical tidbit: in the 2000s, doctors began documenting this as phantom vibration syndrome, a modern hallucination born from constant digital presence. Tonight, you chuckle, remembering how often you felt it yourself. Scholars still argue whether it's neurological or psychological, but it shows how deeply tech seeps into nerves. You drift to cultural contrasts. In South Korea, PC bangs, internet cafes, hum all night with gamers, while in Scandinavia, digital detox retreats grow popular, banning phones after dusk. Odd fact: Bhutan briefly measured gross national happiness by surveying citizens about screen-free evenings. Scholars still argue whether tech is inherently harmful or just misused, but you see both extremes painted across the globe. The solution whispers simple: boundaries. A cutoff hour, a charging station outside the bedroom, rituals that don't glow. Odd quirk: in the early 20th century,
Families observed lamp-out time, a moment when all flames were doused, signaling finality. Tonight, you imagine a modern version. Screens dark, mind light. You smirk at the irony. Humans invented tools to free time, then chained themselves to endless distraction. Odd fact, the average adult now checks their phone nearly 100 times a day. Scholars still debate whether tech addiction equals substance addiction, but you feel the tug every time your hand twitches toward a device. And yet, technology isn't villain alone. Used wisely, it soothes. Gentle soundscapes, star maps, calming playlists. Tonight you acknowledge the paradox. The same screen that steals rest can also guide it. Scholars still argue whether it's moderation or avoidance that works best, but you sense the truth. Control matters more than abstinence. You breathe deeper. Room dark, screens silenced. The digital dragon waits outside, but tonight you've drawn your line. No glow on pillow, no buzz in ear. Just silence, darkness, breath. Your eyes soften. Your body thanks you. The night belongs not to pixels, but to dreams. You've dimmed the lights, silenced the phone, maybe even stretched and breathed your way into calm. And yet, there comes a night when none of it works. You roll, you sigh. You check the clock, regret checking it, then check again. Welcome to the battlefield of insomnia nights. Tonight, we step inside that restless arena together. First, the clock itself becomes an enemy. You watch numbers tick, every minute louder than thunder. Odd historical fact, before mechanical clocks, people tracked time by candle markings, scratches burned into wax. Imagine lying awake, watching wax vanish instead of digits glow. Scholars still argue whether awareness of time worsens insomnia, but you felt it. The more you watch, the less you rest. Then there's the midnight math. You calculate how much sleep remains. If I fall asleep now, I'll get 5 hours. Wait, 4.5. Odd quirk. In 1918, soldiers wrote letters describing the same counting habit in trenches, where noise made slumber scarce. Scholars still debate whether calculation is rational coping or just self-torture. But tonight, you laugh softly. It's universal. Insomnia comes in flavors. Sleep onset insomnia, you just can't drift. Sleep maintenance insomnia, you wake too soon, mind roaring. Odd fact, in 16th century Europe, first sleep and second sleep were common. People naturally woke in the night, prayed or talked, then slept again. Tonight you wonder, maybe your restless waking is more historical than pathological. Scholars still argue whether biphasic sleep is natural or cultural, but the idea soothes you. It's not failure, it's rhythm. You try turning over, fluffing pillows, adjusting blankets. Odd quirk, ancient Romans filled pillows with reeds or hay, noisy enough to rustle each time they moved. Tonight your memory foam feels like luxury by comparison. Scholars still argue whether environment outweighs biology in insomnia, but clearly, comfort helps. Your mind floods with racing thoughts. Tomorrow's meeting, that awkward text reply, that memory from childhood that just had to surface now. Odd fact, monks in the 5th century complained of nocturnal demons, their term for invasive thoughts that stole rest. Tonight you smile at the poetry. Your demons have Wi-Fi and overdue bills. Scholars still debate whether racing thoughts cause insomnia or follow from it, but either way, they're your companions. Some nights bring physical restlessness, twitching legs, sudden jerks. Odd quirk, in medical texts of the 17th century, night kicking was described as the body fighting unseen battles. Today we call it periodic limb movement. Tonight you feel less alone knowing centuries documented the same midnight jolts. What do you do when the night refuses you? Some say leave the bed. Stand up, walk, read something dull. Historical tidbit, Thomas Edison, insomniac himself, built a cot in his workshop, believing ideas arrived only in sleepless hours.
Tonight you envy his productivity, but not his exhaustion. Scholars still argue whether staying in bed worsens insomnia, but you felt it. Sometimes escape works. Others say write it down. Keep a notebook, unload worries, trap them on paper. Odd fact: Leonardo da Vinci's journals contain notes written at absurd hours, tiny sketches scrawled sideways. Tonight you imagine his candle-lit desk, both genius and insomniac, scribbling solutions in the dark. You may have tried counting sheep. It sounds quaint, but it lingers for a reason. Odd historical quirk: medieval shepherds actually tallied sheep aloud as a form of bookkeeping, not for sleep. Yet the rhythm carried over. Scholars still argue whether it works, but repetitive imagery does calm the mind. Your mental flock drifts across a hill, endless and slow. Insomnia often tempts midnight snacking. You pad to the kitchen, fridge glowing like a portal. Odd fact: in the 20th century, midnight luncheons were a social fad among insomniac elites. Tonight you avoid heavy food, knowing sugar spikes will only tease wakefulness. Scholars still debate whether late eating triggers insomnia or is just a symptom, but you sense the cycle firsthand. Sometimes you surrender and watch the sky. The stillness outside offers a mirror. Historical note: in desert cultures, nomads saw sleeplessness as a gift, more time to study stars. Tonight you lean into that thought. Maybe wakefulness can be wonder. There's humor, too, in the insomnia shuffle. Blanket on, blanket off, leg out, leg in. Odd quirk: in Japan, futons allow sleepers to kick coverings dramatically without disturbing partners. Tonight you envy that simplicity. But the deepest truth: fighting sleep rarely wins. The harder you chase it, the faster it runs. Odd fact: in cognitive behavioral therapy, one tactic is paradoxical intention, telling yourself to stay awake. Scholars still argue whether it's trick or technique, but you've noticed, when you stop forcing, drowsiness sneaks back. Culture adds layers. In Spain, late dinners push sleep late. In rural India, communal sleeping still thrives, where snores and rustles become lullabies. Odd quirk: in Victorian England, insomnia was nicknamed the fashionable disease, proof of sophistication. Tonight you laugh at that. Your insomnia feels anything but glamorous. And so, insomnia nights remind you rest isn't just biology, it's relationship, with thoughts, with surroundings, with expectation. Historical fact: in ancient Greece, Hypnos was god of sleep, twin brother of Thanatos, god of death. Sleep was sacred, yet elusive. Tonight you honor that mystery. You settle again, softer now, no longer angry at the night. If sleep comes, it comes. If not, you've lived through sleepless hours before, and morning still arrived. Your body whispers, "Trust me." And with that, maybe your eyes close, not from struggle, but from surrender.
You've navigated insomnia, tamed mind chatter, balanced body, and controlled technology. Now it's time to explore environmental cues beyond the bedroom, the subtle forces that either nudge you toward sleep or pull you away. Tonight, you wander through sounds, smells, and atmospheres that cradle or disrupt the night. First, the natural sounds: crickets chirping, wind rustling leaves, distant waves, oddly hypnotic. Odd fact: in 18th century Europe, garden sounds were incorporated into aristocratic sleep rituals. Fountains and gentle streams were designed to mask urban chaos. Scholars still debate whether these natural cues are physiologically restorative or culturally conditioned. But your own experience shows the mind relaxes when the environment sings softly. Then, urban noise, that relentless hum of cars, air conditioners, and distant sirens. Odd quirk: in Victorian London, residents complained about night air rumbles, leading some to move outside city limits just for quiet. Tonight, you close the window or play white noise, seeking that shelter. Scholars still argue whether masking noise is better than absolute silence,
But either way, the goal is calm. Smell enters subtly but powerfully. Lavender, cedarwood, chamomile, oddly effective. Odd historical detail: ancient Egyptians burned frankincense and myrrh to promote rest, believing scents could cleanse both body and spirit. Scholars still debate whether aromatherapy acts chemically or psychologically, but tonight, a faint lavender pillow mist feels like a gentle hand on your head. Temperature and air quality play another role. Odd fact, in medieval Scandinavia, bedrooms were rarely heated. Sleeping close to stoves or sharing body warmth was practical and restful. Scholars still argue whether modern HVAC systems improve or overregulate sleep, but your own cool, slightly ventilated room confirms ancient logic: neither too hot nor too cold. Light outside the bedroom, the moon, street lamps, neon signs, also matters. Odd historical quirk: in 19th century Paris, gas lamps extended nights unnaturally, prompting doctors to warn of overlit evenings harming rest. Tonight, blackout curtains or dimmed lights honor your circadian rhythm. Scholars still debate the melatonin-disrupting impact of minimal light, but you notice even faint glow changes the body's response. The bedroom smell of night itself, cool, slightly damp, perhaps scented by plants outside, acts like a lullaby. Odd quirk: in rural England, people would leave windows open so night air could carry away day's tension. Tonight, you crack the window just enough for a breeze, enjoying the subtle shift. Scholars still argue whether fresh air directly aids sleep, but your lungs feel relief. Soundscapes inside the room, white noise, fan hums, gentle music, become allies. Odd fact: Japanese shizuka rooms, literally quiet spaces, were historically designed to allow the brain to decouple from daytime chaos. Scholars still debate whether passive noise aids sleep or simply masks disturbance, but your relaxed pulse proves the effect. Even room colors and textures act as cues: cool blues, muted greens, soft bedding. Odd historical tidbit: 16th century French chateaux often used pastel walls in chambers to evoke calm. Scholars still argue whether color psychology is effective or placebo, but your eyes and skin relax instantly in a well-curated room. Outside factors, weather, seasons, play subtle roles. Rain's rhythmic tapping, wind's low howl, temperature shifts, all cues your body responds to unconsciously. Odd fact: in traditional Japan, rain is considered a natural sleep companion. Amato literally means rain sounds used for meditation and rest. Scholars still debate whether these cues are evolutionary triggers or culturally learned behaviors, but tonight, you let gentle rain patter lull your mind. Cultural habits frame environmental cues. In rural India, curtains may be minimal, letting moonlight guide bedtime. In urban America, blackout curtains, noise machines, and night masks dominate. Odd fact: medieval European communities structured town clocks and bell chimes to regulate sleep collectively. Scholars still argue whether communal cues or personal rituals matter more, but you sense both intertwine. Even small ritual objects like a warm water bottle, a soft blanket, a pillow chosen for perfect height send signals to the subconscious. Odd quirk: Roman baths included evening rituals, not just hygiene, but temperature and scent cues to prepare for rest. Scholars still debate whether these objects have symbolic or chemical influence, but you know the comfort is undeniable. And then there's the proximity to nature. Windows open, plants near the bed, small fountains in the room, subtle reminders of calm ecosystems. Odd fact: medieval gardeners and monks planted gardens to create serene rest spaces near living quarters. Scholars still argue whether these cues truly affect circadian rhythm, but tonight, your eyes trace leafy shadows and relax. Finally, you consider body positioning in space. Alignment with bed, pillows, blankets, even slight inclination or angle all influence comfort. Odd quirk. Ancient Chinese feng shui recommended head placement relative to doors and windows to optimize energy flow during sleep. Scholars still debate efficacy, but tonight, correct posture ensures deep relaxation. As you settle, the environment feels alive yet invisible, shaping sleep with gentle nudges. Odd details, historical wisdom, scholarly debates, they all converge silently, helping you surrender. Your room, your space, is now a cradle of cues, ready to guide you into night. You've mastered environment, tamed technology, balanced body and mind. But one more subtle dimension awaits: pre-sleep rituals and habits. These tiny actions, repeated nightly, are often the unsung heroes of deep sleep. Tonight, you explore how deliberate patterns prepare the brain and body for slumber. First, the bedtime routine. Oddly simple, yet surprisingly effective. Odd fact, in 17th century Europe, wealthy households followed strict chambering routines: bathing, dressing in night attire, and reading quietly before bed. Scholars still debate whether consistency or duration matters more, but your own habitual brushing, stretching, and reading create a familiar prelude to dreams. Brushing teeth and washing your face is more than hygiene. It's a signal to the brain. Odd historical tidbit. In Japan, daily cleansing before bed has been practiced for centuries, tied to Shinto rituals of purification. Scholars still argue whether ritualistic cues improve sleep psychologically, but you notice how this act signals day is done. Journaling or planning serves as mental clearing. Odd quirk. Leonardo da Vinci wrote nocturnal notes not just for creativity, but perhaps to empty the mind before sleep. Tonight, jotting tomorrow's tasks, worries, or gratitudes softens mental chatter. Scholars still debate whether journaling works chemically or psychologically, but your mind feels lighter. A brief reading habit, something calm, non-digital, prepares the imagination for rest. Odd historical fact. Medieval monks often read scripture or philosophy before bed, believing it shaped dreams and morality alike. Scholars still argue whether content truly matters, but your eyelids feel the effect as prose nudges neurons toward serenity. Stretching or gentle yoga fits naturally here. Odd quirk. Victorian bedtime exercise charts included soft stretches to release tension. Scholars still debate whether it's mechanical relaxation or ritualistic expectation that aids sleep, but your muscles thank you, loosened and ready. You consider lighting cues: a dim lamp, candle glow, or warm nightlight. Odd historical tidbit. Before electricity, night was sacred, unbroken by mechanical intrusion. Scholars still debate whether avoidance or moderation works best, but tonight you choose surrender to darkness. Small actions compound: stretching, breathing, journaling, soft light, warm bath, gentle sound. Odd fact. Cultures worldwide, Romans, Japanese, and European aristocrats, followed similar layered routines without science to guide them. Scholars still debate mechanism, but centuries of practice suggest efficacy. You smile, noting the irony. Rituals may seem trivial, yet they form a bridge between wakefulness and sleep. Tonight, your routine signals the brain, day is done, body is ready, dreams may come. You lie back, relaxed, almost ceremonious, aware of history, quirks, and science all folded into this nightly dance. Your body sighs. Muscles soften, breath deepens, mind quiets. The night awaits, not as adversary, but as companion, guided by rituals centuries in the making.
You've explored body, mind, environment, rituals, everything converging toward the ultimate goal: deep, restorative sleep.
Tonight, we pull all threads together, letting preparation, timing, and self-awareness guide you into dreamland. First, acknowledge the cumulative effect of all previous steps. Odd fact, studies of polyphasic sleep in the 18th century noted that small naps or micro-rests across the day affected nighttime sleep quality. Scholars still argue whether such cumulative strategies are better than strict monophasic sleep, but tonight you feel the benefit. Your body, mind, and environment all nudging toward readiness. Breath remains your anchor. Slow, deliberate, steady. Odd quirk. In Tibetan meditation traditions, counting breaths was used to enter hypnagogic states. Scholars still debate physiological versus psychological benefits, but you notice eyelids drooping naturally with each exhale. Temperature, light, and sound converge now. The slight chill in the air, soft blankets warming, a gentle fan hum, or distant rain, all cues become a lullaby. Odd historical tidbit. In medieval monasteries, chambers were designed for optimal airflow and acoustics to encourage rest. Tonight, you replicate that harmony in your modern room, consciously or not. The body's tension has melted away through gentle stretches, mindful posture, and minor movements. Odd quirk. Roman baths included post-soak stretching and massages to calm both body and mind before sleep. Scholars still argue whether mechanical relaxation alone is sufficient, but your pulse slows. You reflect on mental calm achieved through journaling, thought offloading, or meditative visualization. Odd fact, Leonardo da Vinci's night notes often included mundane worries alongside creative sketches, his way of unloading and freeing mind space. Scholars still argue whether mental offloading has physiological sleep effects, but your mind is undeniably quieter. Nutrition, hydration, and stimulants have been balanced. Odd historical tidbit, Victorian doctors warned that heavy meals or late tea disrupted REM cycles. Today, your light snack, warm milk, or herbal tea functions in the same calming ritual, gently nudging the body toward rest. Technology sits quietly outside the bedroom, screens dark, notifications silenced. Odd quirk, in the 1990s, early sleep timers on televisions tried to automate the same discipline, often failing spectacularly. Scholars still argue whether tech avoidance or controlled use is superior, but tonight, darkness dominates. Your sleep space, the mattress, pillows, blankets, room temperature, smells, acts as a silent cue. Odd fact, Japanese futons historically encouraged correct posture and tactile comfort, aligning body and mind. Scholars still debate the significance of environment versus internal readiness, but tonight, comfort envelops you. And then comes acceptance, perhaps the most critical aspect. Odd quirk, Stoic philosophers and Buddhist monks alike recognized that forcing sleep often causes insomnia. Surrender allows natural cycles to unfold. Scholars still argue whether mental acceptance or ritual primacy works better, but tonight, your brain quietly heeds the signal. It's time. You drift further by letting imagination wander gently. Odd fact, medieval Europeans embraced second sleep hours, allowing thoughts, prayers, and storytelling in between sleep phases, knowing consciousness can ebb and flow. Tonight, you mentally wander softly without urgency, creating an ease-filled transition. Physical relaxation deepens. Muscles soften completely, spine aligned, neck and shoulders loose. Odd historical tidbit, Roman chamber design included low beds and cushions for ideal spinal posture. Scholars still debate how crucial exact alignment is, but you feel your body responding positively. Mind racing is quieted through visualization, soft imagery of landscapes, waves, stars, or gentle hills. Odd quirk, ancient Persian sleep guides recommended mind theater to lull sleepers, similar to modern guided meditations. Scholars still debate mechanism, but your mental cinema is serene. You acknowledge your daily achievements and setbacks with kindness.
a subtle gratitude practice. Odd fact, Stoics wrote nightly reflections, noting lessons and victories to clear the mind. Scholars still argue whether this improves sleep chemistry, but your mind feels calm, unburdened. Finally, the transition to actual sleep begins. Odd quirk, across centuries, humans have used repetitive rituals, breathing, counting, sounds, warmth, to trigger hypnagogia, the magical liminal state before full unconsciousness. Scholars still debate whether triggers are learned or innate, but tonight, your eyelids droop, muscles relax, brain eases into twilight. Every element, environment, habits, nutrition, movement, mental state, now merges into a symphony. Odd fact, even small cues, repeated nightly over centuries, produce measurable sleep onset benefits. Scholars still argue which elements dominate, but tonight, their combined effect is undeniable. Your body hums with readiness. Your mind is soft and quiet. Even lingering stress and past insomnia fade into background hum. You smile, knowing all the quirks, historical practices, and scientific debates converge tonight into one thing: sleep that restores, replenishes, and refreshes.
The night settles completely now. Your body, so recently bustling with thoughts, movements, and small rituals, sighs into stillness. Every muscle, every fiber softens. Even your heartbeat seems to whisper, slowing in gentle rhythm with the calm night air. You feel a cozy weight, not of tension, but of deep restorative ease. Outside, the world hums quietly. Distant traffic, a lone dog barking, leaves brushing softly against the window. Oddly comforting, these subtle nocturnal sounds cradle you, reminding you that life continues gently, even as you drift toward rest. You imagine yourself lying in a soft meadow, moonlight caressing your skin, cool breeze threading through the air. Your breath, slow and steady, becomes a metronome for relaxation. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Each cycle taking you closer to the sweet threshold between wakefulness and dreams. Oddly, a smile curls your lips. Tonight, there is no struggle, only surrender. Thoughts of the day fade like sand slipping through fingers. Visualize gentle waves lapping at a shore, each crest whispering calm, each retreating curl drawing you deeper into comfort. Or perhaps a quiet forest where shadows stretch lazily and soft bird calls punctuate stillness. Whatever imagery your mind chooses, allow it to soothe, to cradle, to guide you effortlessly into sleep. Remember, the night is your ally. Darkness is not emptiness, but a soft blanket. Every ritual you practiced, every mindful choice you made today leads you here, safe, calm, and ready. Odd as it may seem, centuries of human wisdom, quirks, and even playful experiments all converge in this single moment of peace. So, dim the lights fully. Feel the gentle weight of blankets, the softness of your pillow. Allow eyelids to fall. Whisper to yourself, I am ready. I am safe. I surrender to rest. And with that, drift effortlessly, deeper, softer, into dreams.